Look, you don't have to do stories on Melania Trump, but if you do them accurately. So when I saw the corporate media after the Republican National Convention doing stories like this, I had to respond. This is the types of headlines we saw. Perspective, she smiled, and that was enough. Or here from the Hill, Melania Trump makes big impression at Republican National Convention, even without a speech. Or CNN video, Donald Trump recognizes wife Melania in RNC speech. Or the New York Times, Trump's protective coverings, a bandage, Melania Trump, and patriotism. Or ABC News, Melania Trump attends the final night of the RNC. Or Forbes, Melania Trump makes rare appearance at the RNC. Here's a timeline of her public outings. Or the Financial Times, the Trump family, who's up, who's down, and where is Melania? I mean, are you reading what it is that you're writing? Because these were the types of headlines that you were feeding us in 2023. Melania Trump will step up public appearances for Donald in 2024. It's time for her to leave her mark on history. Melania Trump says she supports Donald's 2024 campaign. Or after the verdict, Trump verdict brings family closer, including a thaw between Ivanka and Melania. Source, becoming a convicted felon, an adjudicated sexual assaulter, someone who's on videotape bragging about sexually assaulting women and inspecting women's naked bodies without their consent. This is bringing them closer together, that he's now convicted of felonies. The media is such a complete and utter failure. Here's what someone said. This is why I've been harping about media capture of the mainstream media and also their polling. Media capture is a form of governance failure that occurs when the news media advance the commercial or political concerns of state and or non-state special interest groups controlling the media industry instead of holding those groups accountable and reporting in the public interest. It is a systemic governance problem where political leaders and media owners work together in a symbiotic but mutually corrupting relationship. Media owners provide supportive news coverage to political leaders in exchange for favorable government treatment of their businesses and political interests. And on the one hand, Donald Trump threatens them, and President Biden doesn't. So the one who threatens them gets these types of ridiculous stories. So if you want to cover Melania, what you should cover is that Melania was utterly disgusted by Donald Trump, that she's refused to show up at any campaign event with Donald Trump. She refused to give a speech at the Republican National Convention. That seems to be a pretty significant story, that all other first ladies or wives of the candidates spoke, but Melania did not give a speech. And then at the end, she refused to even give Donald Trump a kiss. She turned her face away in disgust after Donald Trump's speech. So if you want to accurately report about Melania, then report the truth. Just say the facts. Melania did not show up to the first 3 days. She showed up the last day. She refused to speak, and she looked disgusted at Donald Trump after his bizarre speech about Hannibal Lecter moving the Republican National Convention to Venezuela, bragging how the Taliban called him Your Excellency, saying that Kim Jong-un misses him, calling Nancy Pelosi Crazy Nancy Pelosi, and on and on and on. So cover the actual news, because here's what happened. Was this the moment that she smiled and that was enough? Here, play this clip. Like, for real, like, what are you even talking about? And by the way, did you see these other headlines as well? The Boston Globe, in a departure, Trump calls for unity, healing in America. The Dallas Morning News, Trump emphasizes unity. USA Today, after an attempt on his life, can Trump unite us? The Detroit News, Trump, we must heal the discord. Were you watching the speech? This is what Politico says. Politico goes, there appears to be a new softness to Donald Trump, with people who talk to him describing him with words like existential, serene, emotional, and even spiritual. I mean, the corporate media has absolutely gone mad. They've absolutely lost their freaking collective minds, or actually they found it, but it was just mask off, and they're being clear that they support fascism and authoritarianism. Donald Trump is an adjudicated sexual assaulter. Okay? How are we supposed to discuss with our daughters and granddaughters and just anybody in our life that the leader of the Republican Party engages in sexual assault? And you go, oh, fake news, deep state. He's on tape. He's on tape bragging. Oh, locker room talk, locker room talk. No, I've been in locker rooms. I played sports. People didn't talk like that. People didn't brag about sexually assaulting women in the freaking locker room. So don't give up. He was joking about being a dictator on day one. Oh, ha! Very funny. Good, great joke. Everybody loves a good dictator joke for the leaders of political parties. That's a very funny joke, especially when they say it over and over again that they're going to be a dictator on the first day and then have a platform called Project 2025 to actually implement it. And the United States Supreme Court actually makes a ruling saying that we're okay with dictatorship and you could run the government as a dictator. So I fail to see the humor in that. Or just going back to Melania, if you want to report on Melania and you want to have a serious dialogue and ask serious questions, then go back to when Donald Trump met Melania. Talk about what Donald Trump was doing before he met Melania, which was hanging out with Jeffrey Epstein over and over again, hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell, meeting women that Ghislaine Maxwell was introducing him to. Girls that Ghislaine Maxwell is introducing him to. You can talk about Donald Trump being on yachts with like 14-year-old girls for the Look of the Year competition. You talk about that as it was on tape. 14-year-old girls grinding on older men. You could talk about what Donald Trump was doing during that period. Then you could talk about how Donald Trump met Melania. You're going to tell the fake story and say, oh, she's a supermodel that speaks 15 different languages. I think it's like 7 different languages or something. No, she doesn't. You're just buying their narratives. She wasn't a supermodel. She came to some modeling agency that would bring in Eastern European women, and then they would hold parties, and the Eastern European woman, the young Eastern European woman, would be introduced to wealthy Manhattan businessmen at clubs called the Kit Kat Club, and that's where they would meet. And that's where Donald Trump met Melania. That's where they met. And so if you want to report on Melania, you can talk about the speech when she did give a speech at the convention where she plagiarized Michelle Obama's speech word for word. We can talk about that. Here, play the clip.
Of the values that you work hard for what you want in life.
For what you want in life.
That your word is
that
your
word
bond.
is your bond. That you do what you say you're going to do.
Keep your promise.
That you treat people.
That you treat people with
dignity and respect, because we want our children and all children in this nation to know that the only limit to the height of your achievements is the reach of your dreams and your willingness to work hard for them.
No, but let me explain to you what's going on here with those headlines, okay? Let me explain to you what's happening. What's happening is the media loves this WWE cosplay fascism. Heck, Donald Trump gave him Hulk Hogan. They gave him the Hulkster at a Republican National Convention. Rather than having former Republican leaders speak, they had Hulk Hogan go, oh yeah, look at it. It's like, what are you even doing? So it happened at the Republican National Convention. Melania doesn't speak. Melania doesn't even want to talk to him. And he talks about Hannibal Lecter, Viktor Orban, Venezuela, Kim Jong-un, crazy Nancy Pelosi, migrant invasions, Kid Rock, Dana White. Migrants are taking 107% of people's jobs. But you go, oh, this was a tone shift. This was all about unity and bringing people together. Let me tell you, here are the facts. Some facts that Gavin Newsom puts out. These are just data. You could check out the data. Reminder of what life was like under Donald Trump. Murders rose 30%, one of the largest increases recorded in history. Cuts to law enforcement were proposed every year. $8.4 trillion was added to the national debt. Real GDP declined its largest drop since 1947. The trade deficit rose over 40%. Worst ever in U.S. history. 2.9 million jobs were lost. 154,000 manufacturing jobs were lost. Coal production declined 27%. Coal mining jobs dropped 17%. Talk about who J.D. Vance is. Supports a nationwide ban on abortion. Advocated against exceptions for rape and incest. Wants women to stay in violent marriages. Said he would not have certified the 2020 election results. Called Social Security and Medicare the biggest roadblocks to any kind of real fiscal sanity. And praised the Project 2025 agenda. Just do your job. You can report on Melania, but say that she didn't attend these events. She didn't show up. She didn't give a speech. She wouldn't even kiss Donald Trump. Talk about the post-nuptial agreement that they negotiated. Go do reporting if you want to do it, that there's nothing normal. You could talk about Ivana, Donald Trump's first wife, who he then buried in the back lot of a golf course and let the shrubs grow over it. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about why Mike Pence wasn't there, because Donald Trump led people to try to kill him. We'll talk about that. You just got to do your job. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 3 million together.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Midas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.